and welcome to this video where we're going to cover the Democrats, Wilson and New Freedom in the period leading up to the election of Woodrow Wilson, and then in the next video we'll look at his actual presidency. We'll be able to describe some of the turmoil of the Democrats in this period against the Republican supremacy, and then later the mistakes that they made. We'll look at the rise of progressivism and Woodrow Wilson, and later evaluate just how good he was. So in today's lesson we'll quickly recap the end of the Republican dominance. So we've got, really Harrison and Wilson being the only two presidents that elected that were Democrats, and we know reasons why the Republicans were so supreme in this period. So we've got Cleveland, McKinley, Roosevelt and Taft that we dealt with in last videos. The Democratic Party were badly damaged by the divides in the 1890s. Populism split the support of the Democrats. We had some people that wanted to drag the party towards big business, known as moderates, some people that wanted to support big business, conservative Democrats, and then we've got the populist Democrats that want to bring it to the left. The Republicans, all of this time, were supported by big business, even Roosevelt and Taft. Although they wanted to regulate it in a more progressive manner, they're still supporting big business, and they had a prosperous economy through this period, and so there's really no challenges. The only challenge that we saw in the last clip was during the Depression of 1893 and the strikes that caused the election. So the Democrats are in disarray. The 1896 election demonstrates the strengths and weaknesses. McKinley versus William Jennings Bryan. WJB attracts large audiences. He's very popular. There's a sense of moral crusade, and he is supported by many people. But free silver was divisive. He fails in 1896, he fails again in 1900, and that's partially due to the war with Spain and the support that the Republicans garner from that. The 1904 election really does demonstrate their failure of the Democrats. They abandon WJB and they turn toward a moderate who's called Parker. Parker loses significantly. Roosevelt wins re-election, and as you can see from the map, they fail to win any of the northern states at all, and it is a complete catastrophe for the Democrats. It shows clearly how successful Roosevelt was and how much support the Republicans had in this period. The 1908 election, though, they return back to William Jennings Bryan. This time it's his third election. Notably, he fails to win all three. He fails to win a state in the northeast. He fails to win many states in the northwest. Even on a new moderate progressive platform, and this is time against Taft. He abandons the idea of free silver, which was very popular, but also very divisive, and as you can see, he loses significantly. They do, though, undergo some kind of revival in 1910. The 1910 midterm elections show the Democrats being more successful, but the Republicans suffering from disaster. Taft has alienated many Republicans and his mentor Roosevelt. Taft decides to appoint conservative Republicans to different positions, and that annoys the progressive Republicans as well as Roosevelt, and he tears them apart. The Democrats win control of the House of Representatives in 1910 midterm elections, and that's a hugely significant moment. The midterm elections represent an opportunity for the people to vote in terms of confidence of their president. So the election of 1908, obviously it goes in favour of Taft. In 2 years he manages to alienate many of his supporters, and they demonstrate in protest by voting for the Democrats. It is a hugely significant moment as it shows that Taft is clearly unpopular. Move towards conservative republicanism is unpopular, but it also shows the Democrats being in some revival, and that's partially due to Woodrow Wilson, who's a rising star of the party. He's a Southerner, he's a pacifist and a progressive idealist, and he's going to win the election in 1912. Here he is, our president number 28, a Southerner, pacifist. He was governor of New Jersey. He was a distinguished academic. He was the president of Princeton University, and he was known for his energetic and decisive leadership in the period. He had many progressive ideas, and he wins re-election in 1916 and leads the USA through the First World War. Now, the 1912 election is worth zooming in on. So we've got the 1896 election with William Jennings Bryan. They lose again in 1900. They lose again in 1904 and 1908, and now 1912. We've got the turning point in American politics. As we know from last lesson, Taft was the incumbent, the sitting president, looking for his second term, And Roosevelt, now angry at the direction that he's taken the party, tries to win the nomination for the Republican Party. When he fails to do so, he decides to split from the party and create the Bull Moose Party. Now, long before the election is over, it is clear that Taft is going to come third. That means it is a two-person fight between Wilson and Roosevelt. And we can see that in the end, Wilson wins convincingly. Had Roosevelt won nomination or not split from the Republican Party, it could have been a very different election. But it's notable as well for the fourth party, the Socialists, led by Eugene Debs, who win almost 1 million votes. That's almost as many as the Democrats won in previous elections. What is socialism? Eugene Debs was a railroad worker. He was a trade union activist. He was the leader of the railway strike in 1893 and the Pullman strike in 1894. And he really does typify what socialism is. He wanted to end big businesses' grip on the economy and grip on workers. They were exploiting workers. They had long working weeks. They had reduction in pay, all in the name of profit. Workers in socialism organise into trade unions in opposition to big business. They organise strikes, and we've got a number of examples there. They want a radical change to society and the economic system. They want to abandon this big business capitalism in favour of social ownership, so that the people own the businesses and the workers benefit equally from the profits. Moderate socialists, though, were willing to work with big business in return for safeguards on jobs and pay, etc. It remains an influential factor throughout the First World War, but it begins to be overshadowed by the progressive movement. So socialism is kind of a key indicator that the country is moving towards the left, and that conservative republicanism isn't going to work, and that Republican Democrats aren't going to work. And it really paves the way for Woodrow Wilson's election in 1912. Thank you very much. Next lesson we'll look more in detail at Woodrow Wilson.